Today, we're going to make our harmony more colorful by learning about seventh chords. This video is part of a series on how to choose chords for a melody. In part 1, we learned how to use the 3 basic major chords. In part 2, we added the 3 diatonic minor chords. And now in part 3, we're going to add the 7th to those chords. There will be homework, so stick around for the end of the video. So what are 7th chords? We get triads by starting at the root, adding the note a third above, and then adding another third above that. To get a 7th chord, you simply keep going. Add another third on top, and the note is an interval of a 7th above the root, hence the name. There are a lot of different types of 7th chords, so for now we're going to focus on 3 basic types that you're going to find in a major key. Major 7th, minor 7th, and dominant 7th. I like to move in small steps, so we'll be saving the diminished 7th chord for another day. The first is major 7th, which is a major triad plus the note a major 7th above the root. I like to mark them with the chord root plus MAJ7 like this. In a major key, the diatonic major 7th chords are 1 and 4. So in the key of D, that would be D major 7 and G major 7. To me, major 7th chords sound very sweet and warm. If you look at it, you can actually see that D major 7 has both a D major triad in it and an F sharp minor triad in it. So with this major plus minor, you get kind of a bittersweet feeling. Next up is the minor 7th chord, which you get by starting with a minor triad and adding the pitch a minor 7th or flat 7 above the root. In a major key, the diatonic minor 7th chords are 2, 3, and 6. Or in the key of D, that would be E minor 7, F sharp minor 7, and B minor 7. I usually write them as root M7. To my ear, minor 7th chords are very smooth and soft. It's like taking a minor chord and adding some extra chill to it. Next, we have the dominant 7th chord. You start with a major triad and add the minor 7th or flat 7th above the root. In a major key, the only dominant 7th chord is 5-7. So in the key of D, that would be A7. Notice that a dominant 7th chord is just called 7, which is a bit weird considering that there's lots of different 7th chords, but that's the way it is. So if somewhere in the wild you see a G7 chord, know that it always means G dominant 7. Dominant 7th chords can have a bit of that smoothness like a minor 7th. But there's something else in there that's much more compelling, the tritone. In tonal music, the tritone is considered a restless interval that doesn't feel quite right and has this strong urge to resolve. Usually, the tritone resolves with both notes going in opposite directions. For example, if the bottom note goes down, the top note goes up. Or if the bottom note goes up, the top note goes down. Alright, so here's the recap on our 6 new chords. 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, 3 minor 7, 4 major 7, 5-7, 6 minor 7. Remember, we're saving 7 diminished 7 for another video. Let's finally put them to use with our example melodies. For now, there are 2 ways we can use 7th chords. One is to just use the existing chords we've already chosen, and where appropriate, we'll change the triad to a 7th chord. The other option is now the melody note could be the 7th of the chord. So before, when the melody note had to be the root, 3rd, or 5th, we now have another choice. Now we have 4 options by adding the 7th. We'll start by taking our existing chord choices from last time and just turning them into 7th chords. Here's what we had for Musical Hall from Pokemon Black and White. And now here's what it sounds like if all those triads become sevenths. I'm just going to replace each chord to the corresponding seventh chord from the key. But don't get too comfortable because we're actually going to have to make an adjustment. Alright, so you can hear it's got a different vibe to it. And I'm sure it's cliche to say it's jazzier, but it is. I mentioned we needed to make an adjustment, and that's here in bar 9. We have a major 7th chord with the root in the melody, so we have to be careful. If we put the major 7th below the root, we end up with a flat 9 interval, which is considered a very nasty sound. It's a dissonance you generally only want on a dominant 7th chord or in special cases, which we'll talk about some other time. For now, just avoid flat 9 intervals whenever you can so they don't create an unwanted distraction. So in this case, we're actually fine on beat 2 since that note is the 7th, but we should consider two alternatives for beat 3. One is to just go back to the triad. The other option is to change it from a major 7th chord to a 6th chord, B flat 6. Major 6 is an alternate to major 7 because it's also extended from the triad but still maintains that stable quality. And it can save you from the flat 9 problem like this one. At this tempo, I think it feels a bit awkward to have a different chord on beat 3 only in this one random spot, so I'll probably do the B flat 6 for the whole bar. Alright, now let's take a look at that Monster Hunter theme. Here was the triad version we came up with last time. Now I'll do the same thing as before and swap all the triads for their matching 7th chords. Notice right at the beginning we have E flat major 7 with E flat in the melody, so I'll keep that as a triad. Everything else can become a 7th chord. So let's have a listen. Now remember, we have another option, which is to treat the main melody note as the 7th of the chord. Before, we were just using roots, thirds, and fifths. So for kicks, let's start by making every single chord have the main melody note be the 7th. Then later, we'll pick and choose some favorites. Alright, some of those really didn't work for me, but some of them did. I like here how the bass line walks up by step in bars 5, 6, and 7. So let's grab those 3 chords right here in the second phrase, and we'll put them into the previous version. So now let's hear what we've got. Let's go back and apply this mix and match technique to the musical hall theme as well for an alternate version. Some of the original chords we'll keep, but we'll change them to 7th chords, and some of the chords we'll replace with ones where the 7th is the melody note. I'm not going to change too much. Now for your homework. You can find it on the 12-Story Music Academy Discord server. There's a link down below the like button. First, take the melody from last time and do 3 versions. One, where you replace your previous triad harmonization with the matching seventh chords. Just remember to watch out for that flat 9 interval. Then do a version where every main melody note is the seventh of the chord. And finally, do a mix and match version where you pick your favorite parts from both of those. Plus, there will be a new melody posted for you to do all 3 versions of. Be sure to share your work and please comment on other people's work as well. This is part 3 of the series. I know last time I said I'd do inversions next, but I thought we should get to seventh chords first. So now I'll say we're doing inversions next. If it's already out, I'll put it right here. Otherwise, watch whatever this is. I'm sure you're gonna love it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.